one of my videos. This is the episode where we rebuild the TS1, or most of it, as much as we can in this episode, so stay with us and enjoy it. Okay, this is the beginning of the build. Our first job is going to be fitting the main bearing into the casing. Now in this case what I'm going to do is I'm going to warm the casing up, right, and I'm going to put a tiny bead of sealant at the back of the bearing, so when the bearing goes in, the outer edge of the bearing is sealed, so I don't want any oil coming back past the outside of the bearing. Well, my camera was full, so I had to delete a lot of footage and start again. So I don't know how much I missed, so I'll go over a few little bits. We're fitting the main bearing. I put a little bead of silicone in the bottom where the bearing's going to stop any leakage around the outside of the bearing. So that's going in before we fit it. So we're just going to heat it up and we're going to knock it in with a drift. Right, okay, the casing's nice and hot now, so we can put our bearing in and knock it into place. Now what I always like to do is like to use drifts on knocking in bearings. I don't like to use too many pullers and pulling in, because you never know 100% if it's home properly. With knocking in, you can hear the difference in the sound and you know it's hit home. So another thing with drifts, always give them a good wipe all over before you use them. There's always can be some debris on there. When you're knocking a bearing in, it drops in your bearing. That's a no-no. Okay, we'll just put our bearing into place, which drops in nice and easy. Our drift. Unfortunately that drift's not long enough, so I've got an extended one, which we're going to wipe before we use it. Wipe that. Wipe the end of your hammer. Cleanliness is next to godliness, as they say. Even a particle from the hammer falling in can give you a damaged bearing. So we're going to tap it in position. Just going fairly evenly. Yeah, it's going in lovely. Alright, that's almost there. Hear the difference in the sound? You know the bearing has hit the bottom and it is firmly home. So that's the bearing in. Now we'll prepare our seal and get our seal fitted. A quick word out to Kickback Garage. Love your spanner. It's a great idea, pal. Well done. Okay, we're going to proceed to fit our seal now. Now these seals are a little bit harder than the rubber type, so they're not so easy to put in. So what I normally do is a little bit of light oil around where it's going in and around the outer edge of the seal to help it in. Right, now always remember that the pressure side of the seal goes down. You can literally push it almost in with your fingers once you've oiled it nicely. But we've got our little drift and we'll give it a little tap down home. And that's it, it's in. We'll give that a wipe off. Nice and clean. Then we've got our gasket, which we're going to coat both sides with our sealant. Just a little coating. like this with your fingers. Not too much, it's just so it's got a coating of sealant on it. You don't need lots of sealant, it just squashes out everywhere and makes a mess. So there we go, that's a nicely coated seal. Gasket, that's going to be dropped in the casing now. So that sits on the face of your bearing and seals that face of the bearing. But that's why I put the sealant around the back edge of the bearing, because it doesn't guarantee sealing that outer edge of the bearing. We're relying on this face here up against the gasket to seal any oil coming around the outside. So this can now go in. Always lubricate this lip. I normally just use grease, light grease on there. You can use 2-stroke oil or any other lubricant, but I do like a little smear of this stuff because it'll sit nicely in the seal and protects that lip from damage when you're fitting anything, and it lubricates the lip. Okay, any excess off. That'll do nicely, ready to go in. Perfect. Okay, we're just going to be fitting screws back in with a impact driver with an extension put on it so we can clear the casings and the right bit that fits snugly in the screws. Drop your screws in, no Loctite. And start them with your fingers. Come on. I'm all fingers and thumbs today. That one started, so they should all go in. Okay. So now we'll take them all down evenly by hand to hand tight. Right. A nice little crossways motion. Okay. And then we'll impact them down for the last bit. So they're all about even. Okay, that's job done. Our seal is in. New seal fitted in our casing. So we're ready now to put our crank in. Right, we're going to put our crank in now. But the first thing I'm going to do is put some lubricant all the way around here on this part of the crank to allow it to pull into the bearing nice and easy, and to lubricate the edge of our seal. So that lubricant on, let's just place our crank into place. Come on, baby. Make sure we didn't catch anything. I didn't quite go in right. Let's have a look. That's fine. Okay. Stick on our little tool. Yes, it's homemade, but nevertheless it does work. Get ourselves a space is just a socket, so into position. Okay. Fully down. Helps the seal to locate on there better before we go all the way down. That's it. Fully home. And that's our crank in position. Okay, we're going to build up our mag now. This is a uni mag, and I've built these before, and I've always noticed on them that the machining is very sharp on these edges, and where the circlip goes in, extremely sharp, and down the bottom where you put your seal in. So I would advise just to take off those sharp edges with some wet and dry. Otherwise, when you're fitting your seals, it's going to cut into your seals, and that's not what we want. So I'm just going to clean up these sharp edges with a little bit of fine wet and dry, just to take that razor edge off. That's much better. Right, let's see if we can get into that one as well. Into the circlip one, so we don't get any snagging on our seal when it goes in. That one's a little more difficult to get into. We can do it though. Oh, yeah, it's like a razor, that is. And now, just from the bottom, just to take those sharp edges off. Okay. Yeah, that's much better. It's getting there. Still a little bit there though. Right, I'll just give this a blowout with the airline. here we've got seals from MB that we're going to fit. Mr. Brody. Yes, there's no need to have V-Tron seals in this because there shouldn't be any petrol on them. So we'll lubricate them up a little bit. Lubricate the edge. That goes in at the bottom. And that's easily pressed in. We'll just press that down now with my back of my drift. Check with the hand. It's in position. Okay, and this little retainer dish that holds the oil seal in place, these always get damaged when you try to get them out. So this is a brand new one. This is from my friend Fally in Malaga. Thanks Fally, great. Come into good use in my engine. So that goes in next, and then we're going to warm this up and drop in our GP NU 2205 bearing. Okay, that's toasty hot now, so we're just going to place our bearing in place. I've got a nice clean socket that I've already wiped out, as you know, that we're going to square it up a bit first. Copper hammer. And there she goes. That's home. So that's that in, bearing in, seal. This is the one we're going to be using. It's a V-Tron seal. We will lubricate the edge and the outside edge. And hopefully this will now press in. Now compression seal, the pressurized seal with the spring on goes to the engine side, to the inner. So that goes up. Get it kind of in. That's going in nicely. Should be able to press this down now with my socket. Can be difficult. Yes, it is being difficult. Right. Because I haven't got a nice sharp edge on this socket. It is being very difficult for me. So we need to get that edge to go down without damaging our mag, because it's gone skew-whiff. Aye. Needs to be straightened. I think we better pop that out and start again. So I'm just going to lift it. Once it's got twisted, you can't get it straight again. So we'll go back in again. Fingers, fingers. Keep it even. Like I said, with the sharp edges, it can be quite difficult. It's going. Yep, that's the sharp edges that's on this mag. Can really cause you problems when you get your seals in. That's what's caused that problem now, but it is in. So we'll just put the circlip in. There we go. In and done. So the amount of grease we're going to use is one good fingerful, no more, to pack our bearing. If you overpack a bearing, it can cause bearings to slide because there's too much grease and it causes them to slide rather than rotate. It also causes too much drag on the bearing and therefore you lose brake horsepower, and it'll push the grease out of the bearing. So don't put too much in there. One fingerful is enough, pushed into the bearing nicely, and that's it. You don't need more than that. You don't have to pack the hell out of it. So that is ready to go on. Okay, so now this is ready to go back together. Last time I used one of these beaded seals, it broke on me right here. I think you remember that in a previous video. This is a different seal now, a different gasket. It's beaded, but this is a different material. The other ones were like a black colour and had problems with those. These hopefully should be better. Hopefully they've solved that problem for us. So it's beaded, but I don't care about the beading. I'm still putting some sealant. So we're gonna put a little smear of sealant on, especially around the studs because they like to leak on studs. Now this casing, Indian casing, it's machined flat on here and it hasn't got the grooves in like some of the Spanish ones. The Spanish ones are the ones that tend to leak around this gasket face for some reason. They've got that machining grooves that they put in it tends to bite into the gasket and break it. So I've had no end of trouble. So have to be really careful with them. So we've got that on. Make sure we get a little bit around our stud holes. Okay, there's a little tab here on your gasket, as you can see. That goes towards this port and it will direct you exactly where your gasket goes. And it lines up then with the studs. So that's your little tab there. So we'll drop that one on. We've got a bead and extra. We don't want any leaks. Right, same on the mag housing. I'm going to put some sealant on this as well. Not too much, just a nice adequate smear. And make sure you get some around them studs, because that's where you get trouble. Okay, as you can see, these have got little rings of beading around the stud holes, so that might help a bit, but when they break, it definitely doesn't help. So right, this is all ready to go on. Grease is on, packed, everything, gasket, sealant. Gently by hand, wiggling it about, make sure that the crank slides over that seal nicely. So move your crank about a little bit as it gets towards the seal. That helps it, guides it over the lip a little better. It should pretty well go by hand all the way. There you go. Okay, it's all the way on. Just need to bolt it down now. That's a success. And the crank turns smoothly and freely. Yes, I'm fitting the SIP crank, SIP race crank, 116mm rod and 60mm stroke. I really like these cranks. I'm fitting them in a lot of people's engines. They're very strong, they're resistant to twisting. This crank has a molybdenum rod, which is lighter than the original, and it's much more resistant to wear, so it gives you a smoother running engine and longer lasting. Okay, I'm just going to drop the piston on, dry build, on this bit. This is a gudgeon pin out of our wiseco. I do like the wiseco gudgeon pins because they're machined out, tapered on the ends to make them lighter. Nice little touch. So that drops us a few grams off. So what we're going to do is just going to drop our piston on for now. So we can play with our barrel and our piston. So that's just slid on into position. So we can drop our barrel on and check ports, and I've got to mark up where my ring peg needs to be repositioned to, because the second ring on the wiseco piston for this, it's a KDX 220 piston originally. It does drop into the inlet port, so I need to move it. So we'll be moving that. So we need to do this to mark it up. So well, we've got no gaskets or spacers at the moment, or shimming. It's coming right at the top of the barrel at the moment. A little marker pen that's not permanent, and we'll just mark the inside of our port there, so we see where that comes to. And I'll tell you what we will also do while we're here, we will mark up where our boost port is, because the reed valve blocks off your boost port. So if it can feed through the piston, better still. Okay. So that's now comes back up. So that's where my port is. So I'm going to need to have my piston ring peg, I would say around there. Get rid of that mark. So that's where I'm going to move it to. I'm going to drop it back on again. Okay, that's a bit better. Lighting. That's my lighting technician. Okay. Right, so what I've got is I've marked up my ring peg position there. So I'm going to match that up on the face of the piston, and we'll see if that misses all our ports. So we better drop this in and check my transfer ports that doesn't drop in to a transfer port. No, it's absolutely bang smack right in between the boost port and the transfer ports. So couldn't be better. I'm just having a look under there now. I'll just show you. So if you can see that, yeah, you can see that. That's just in the right spot. That's just going to miss my transfer ports and the boost port. Excellent. Right, we're coming to the end of this video. I think I've clocked up enough hours on it today, getting things ready. I've got stuff to do. So I hope you enjoyed this video. So don't forget to subscribe and like. Share with your friends. See you later.